The Texas sun hung high in the sky, casting a golden hue over the bustling auction grounds. The air was thick with anticipation as Boyd Cartwright stepped out of his weathered pickup truck, his boots crunching on the gravel as he made his way towards the pens filled with horses of all shapes and sizes. A symphony of nickers and whinnies echoed around him, mingling with the chatter of potential buyers and sellers. He could smell the familiar scents of hay and leather mixed with dust swirling in the warm afternoon breeze. Boyd adjusted his cowboy hat against the bright sunlight and scanned the crowd, searching for signs of what might catch his eye. Today wasn't just any day. It was a chance to find that elusive cutting horse he had been dreaming about. A horse strong enough to manage his growing herd, but agile enough to handle the intricate dance required in cattle work. As he approached one pen after another, Boyd's heart raced at each sighting. But amidst well-bred quarter horses and sturdy paints stood a group that caught his attention. A cluster of miniature horses grouped together nervously, their small bodies moving slightly as they shifted on their hooves. They were an oddity at such a venue, often overlooked by seasoned ranchers like himself, who preferred robust creatures capable of handling tough work on a cattle ranch. "Can you believe those little things?" A voice broke into Boyd's thoughts, pulling him from his reverie. It was Vernon Ashcraft, a neighbor who'd come along for the auction too. "They don't belong here. Looks more like someone's spoiled pets than working stock." Boyd chuckled softly at Vernon's remark while allowing himself to watch them more closely, their delicate frames juxtaposed against their larger counterparts, each exhibiting an undeniable charm even if they seemed ill-suited for ranch life. One particularly striking black and white pinto caught his eye. It had an air of intelligence about it that drew him in closer despite its diminutive size. "I suppose everyone has their place," Boyd replied thoughtfully as he leaned against the fence separating him from these tiny creatures. He felt an unexpected tug at his heartstrings as he noticed how some seemed timid, while others curiously nuzzled one another for comfort amidst this noisy gathering. Moments later, thunderous applause erupted from one corner where bidding had started on an impressive chestnut stallion, his muscles rippling under gleaming coat. But Boyd remained transfixed by Thunderstrike, as he would later learn this particular miniature horse was named. The little fellow stood tall among others, less bold, exuding an unspoken wisdom in those soulful eyes that glimmered beneath long lashes. "I wouldn't waste my time on those," Vernon insisted again, shaking his head dismissively before wandering off toward another set of pens brimming with potential buys. Yet something nagged at Boyd, an instinctual sense that there might be more to Thunderstrike than met the eye. The commotion of the auction hall buzzed with energy, an electric mixture of excitement and tension swirling through the air. Boyd stood just outside the throng, his gaze anchored to Thunderstrike. The miniature horse seemed to absorb the chaos around him, standing calm amidst the loud cries of bidders and the clip-clop of hooves on concrete. Distantly, he could hear a chestnut stallion being paraded before eager buyers, muscles rippling under its shining coat. But Boyd's focus remained solely on this unexpected little horse. Thunderstrike's presence was somehow compelling. Those soulful eyes held an intelligence that struck a chord deep within Boyd's heart, igniting a spark of recognition. He felt an undeniable pull toward this small creature who appeared as if he understood far more than anyone gave him credit for. The vibrant lights overhead cast a sheen on Thunderstrike's black and white pinto coat, making him look almost otherworldly against the backdrop of larger horses braying in confusion and anxiety. Nearby, Vernon Ashcraft chuckled derisively as he examined another set of pens filled with potential purchases. "I wouldn't waste my time on those," he sneered at Thunderstrike, shaking his head dismissively before wandering off to inspect something else entirely. But Boyd couldn't shake off what felt like fate nudging at his shoulder, a sense that there was something remarkable about Thunderstrike that lay hidden beneath his seemingly unassuming exterior. As more horses were ushered into their pens, Boyd leaned against the rail, separating him from Thunderstrike's enclosure. It struck him how absurd it seemed, this tiny horse sitting among giants, yet exuding a quiet strength that drew attention without effort. He inhaled deeply. The scent of hay mingling with dust filled his lungs, and contemplated how wrong it felt to overlook such potential simply because of size alone. Maybe everyone is missing something here, Boyd murmured to himself, as he took note of Thunderstrike's relaxed posture amid all the noise. A stark contrast to some horses who danced nervously in their stalls or whinnied loudly in distress. Could it be possible that beneath this petite frame resided extraordinary gifts? With every passing moment, doubt wrestled with hope inside him, like two competing forces vying for dominance over what could turn out to be a critical decision. As though sensing Boyd's deliberation, Thunderstrike turned his head slightly toward him, those intelligent eyes locking onto Boyd's gaze and holding it there as if issuing an invitation. It wasn't long before bidding began again, voices rising high above one another in a frenzied attempt to gain control over prized livestock destined for uncertain futures. Boyd watched enviously as people raised their hands confidently, each bid soaring higher than the last, but nothing compared to how right it felt. Watching Thunderstrike remain undaunted by such chaos surrounding him, Thunderstrike stood by the trailer, his small frame silhouetted against the backdrop of the ranch. The sun cast a warm glow over everything, illuminating the dust motes dancing lazily in the air. Boyd could feel a knot tightening in his chest as he approached, concern and uncertainty swirling within him like a restless wind. Willie, still fumbling with paperwork, waved him over. "Ready to load up your new horse?" he asked casually, though his eyes betrayed an eagerness to move on from this delivery. Boyd's heart sank as he looked down at Thunderstrike, who appeared equally unsure about what was happening. The little horse's soulful gaze met Boyd's, and something unspoken passed between them. A flicker of understanding that only deepened Boyd's resolve. "Let me get this straight," Boyd replied slowly, his voice steady despite the turmoil brewing inside him. "You're telling me I'm supposed to load this tiny creature into a trailer meant for real horses? What kind of sense does that make?" His words hung heavy in the air. Willie shrugged dismissively while tapping on his clipboard. "Listen, Mr. Cartwright," he said, without looking up. "That's what it says here. Thunderstrike goes in the trailer." The impatience dripped from his tone like sweat off a brow under the hot Texas sun. Boyd crouched down beside Thunderstrike, as if trying to shield him from Willie's brusque demeanor. "It's all right, little fella," he murmured softly, allowing a hand to stroke through the silky strands of Thunderstrike's flowing mane. With every gentle touch against that pinto coat, Boyd felt more protective of this fragile soul than ever before. This wasn't just any horse. There was something extraordinary hidden beneath those tiny hooves and delicate features. "You'll be safe with me," he promised quietly, though doubt clung to his words like stubborn weeds in a well-tended garden. With some coaxing and encouragement from Boyd, his hands moving soothingly along Thunderstrike's neck, the miniature horse took a hesitant step forward towards the open trailer door. The sunlight glinted off its metal frame as it waited ominously for its occupant. Each creak of wood sounded amplified in their enclosed space. Even Dusty Rose and her companions seemed quieted by the unusual scene unfolding before them. "Come on now," Willie urged impatiently once again after giving one last glance at his watch. "We don't have all day." Suddenly inspired by an impulse larger than himself, Boyd stepped into action. He wasn't about to let anyone rush this moment or force Thunderstrike into a situation where fear might overpower trust again. "Hold on there," he called out firmly before turning back toward Thunderstrike once more. "You're not just some object we can shove into place because it fits our timeline." He knelt beside the miniature horse, who seemed almost smaller now under pressure, but held on to hope with unwavering courage, nestled within those large eyes. "What do you say we take our time?" Boyd knelt next to Thunderstrike, his heart racing as he considered the whirlwind of events that had brought them here. The ranch was alive with sounds, the rustle of hay, the distant mooing of cattle, and the gentle whicker of horses mingling in their pastures. Yet amid all this activity, a palpable silence seemed to envelop the tiny horse beside him. "Come on now," Willie urged impatiently, tapping his foot as if the world awaited his command. Boyd's gaze drifted from the bustling auction yard back to Thunderstrike. The miniature horse stood calmly, his coat glistening in the sunlight. But Boyd could sense an undercurrent of anxiety swirling just below his serene exterior. "You're not some object we can shove into place because it fits our timeline," Boyd said firmly, shaking off Willie's impatience like dust from his boots. He took a moment to breathe deeply, filling his lungs with the earthy scent of fresh grass and hay wafting through the air. As he sought reassurance within himself and in those soulful eyes watching him intently. Thunderstrike shifted slightly closer at Boyd's words, grounding him with a newfound strength that radiated from their connection. "What do you say we take our time?" he continued softly, feeling a spark ignite between them that spoke louder than words ever could. The surrounding chaos faded into mere background noise as Boyd focused on this remarkable creature who had unexpectedly entered his life. "Let's show these folks what you're made of," Boyd murmured gently while rising slowly to his feet. He opened the pen gate wide enough for Thunderstrike to step through without hesitation. As they moved together toward the open pasture beyond, where larger horses grazed peacefully, the miniature horse hesitated only briefly before following suit. Once outside, vibrant colors danced across Boyd's vision, the lush greens of grass swaying gently under the warm Texas sun alongside patches of bright wildflowers peeking out amidst tall blades reaching skyward. He glanced around at familiar sights. Each corner of Broken Horn Cattle Ranch held memories rich with laughter and companionship from better days spent with Elena by his side. And yet, here he stood now, with an unexpected companion at his side, searching for new beginnings against old backdrops filled with shadows of yesteryear. As if sensing his thoughts, Thunderstrike lifted his small head high and trotted over to inspect Dusty Rose, a powerful quarter horse standing proudly nearby, and stretched forth a delicate nose in greeting. The contrast was striking. Where Dusty Rose emanated raw strength and stature, Thunderstrike embodied gracefulness packed into a compact frame. Boyd chuckled softly at their initial meeting. It reminded him how unique this little horse truly was, despite being labeled aggressive or unmanageable by others previously. The sun hung high in the Texas sky, casting long shadows across the dusty yard of Broken Horn Cattle Ranch as Boyd knelt beside Thunderstrike. The miniature horse seemed to sense the tension in the air, his dark eyes flickering between uncertainty and a glimmer of hope. Dusty Rose, the powerful quarter horse, stood nearby, her muscles rippling under her shiny coat as she watched this strange newcomer with curiosity. "Come on now," Willie urged impatiently, tapping his foot against the ground as he glanced at his watch again. "We don't have all day." Boyd's heart raced with a mix of determination and protectiveness. He refused to let anyone rush this fragile moment. He wasn't about to force Thunderstrike into an uncomfortable situation that might trigger fear. "Hold on there," he called out firmly over his shoulder before turning back to face Thunderstrike once more. "You're not just some object we can shove into place because it fits our timeline." Kneeling closer to the little horse, Boyd's voice softened. "What do you say we take our time? We've got nowhere to be right now." He extended a hand slowly toward Thunderstrike, palm open and relaxed, an invitation rather than a demand. Thunderstrike hesitated for only a heartbeat before stepping forward cautiously, those intelligent eyes locking onto Boyd's. The miniature horse took a tentative step closer, snuffling at Boyd's outstretched hand as if trying to gauge his intentions. His soft muzzle brushed against Boyd's fingers. It was warm and surprisingly gentle, stirring something deep within the old rancher. A flicker of trust sparked between them. Dusty Rose had approached too. Her large frame loomed over Thunderstrike, but remained non-threatening as she lowered her head slightly in greeting. The contrast was stark, the elegance packed into such small proportions against her powerful stature, but there was an undeniable kinship forming amidst their differences. Boyd chuckled softly at their initial meeting. Even in this surreal circumstance, he couldn't help but smile at how unique this tiny creature truly was, despite being labeled aggressive or unmanageable by others previously. "You see that?" he murmured affectionately to Thunderstrike while nodding toward Dusty Rose. "Even she wants to make friends." As if sensing they were all part of an unspoken agreement, Dusty Rose stepped back slightly to give Thunderstrike space while still keeping him within view. A silent signal that said safety could be found here among the larger horses who held no malice toward him. With newfound confidence swelling within him like rising floodwaters from recent rains after months of drought on these lands, Thunderstrike ventured further toward Dusty Rose's side, his gait steadying with each step as they met eye to eye for an instant that felt electric in its significance. Thunderstrike stood resolutely beside Dusty Rose, their eyes locked in a moment of mutual understanding. The gentle Texas breeze ruffled the miniature horse's mane, and he took a deep breath, inhaling the earthy scent of hay and fresh grass that surrounded them. Boyd watched intently from a distance, his heart swelling with hope as he observed this remarkable encounter unfold. Dusty Rose lowered her head slightly, allowing Thunderstrike to approach without feeling threatened. There was an elegance about the quarter horse. She radiated calm strength that made Thunderstrike feel safe enough to step closer. In that instant, he reached out with his tiny nose, brushing it against Dusty Rose's soft muzzle. It was an act that spoke volumes, a small gesture filled with curiosity and tentative trust. "Look at you," Boyd said softly, his voice barely above a whisper, as if afraid to break the spell of this fragile connection. "You're making friends already." He leaned against the fence post, propping himself up, as he felt warmth spread through him like sunlight on a cool morning. As they touched noses, Thunderstrike's heart raced, a mixture of excitement and anxiety coursed through him. Memories of previous harsh treatment flashed briefly in his mind. Handlers who had been rough with him, places where he hadn't felt safe or accepted. But here, this time, it felt different. Something about the atmosphere promised acceptance rather than rejection. Dusty Rose snorted lightly and took half a step back, respecting Thunderstrike's personal space while still inviting him closer into her world. The larger mare turned her head slightly to nuzzle one of Boyd's quarter horses nearby, but kept an eye on Thunderstrike's every move, as if sensing his need for reassurance. Boyd felt tears prickling at the corners of his eyes when he noticed how tenderly Dusty Rose treated Thunderstrike. "You see that?" he murmured affectionately to the miniature horse while nodding toward their powerful companion. Encouraged by Boyd's soothing words and Dusty Rose's patient demeanor, Thunderstrike began to inch forward again, gathering courage with each careful step across the lush pasture ground beneath him. The warmth from the sun casting long shadows behind him, as though encouraging this bond between unlikely companions. With newfound confidence blossoming inside him like spring flowers pushing through winter soil after months of dormancy, Thunderstrike moved deliberately towards Dusty Rose's side, his little legs steadying as they matched pace in what became a slow waltz of sorts amid vibrant green grasses swaying gently in rhythm with them. The contrast between their sizes became strikingly apparent, yet somehow it only deepened the significance of their meeting. Two creatures brought together by fate amidst sprawling ranch lands under vast blue skies dotted with wisps of cotton candy clouds above them. The sun hung high in the Texas sky, casting a warm golden light over Broken Horn Cattle Ranch, but a chill swept through Boyd as he watched the arrival of a trio of unfamiliar trucks rumble down the dusty road. He set down his coffee cup and wiped his hands on his jeans, noticing Thunderstrike grazing nearby, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing just outside their peaceful haven. As the vehicles came to a halt, 3 figures emerged, each one looking more dubious than the last. The first was Vernon Ashcraftoft, a neighboring rancher whose brow was furrowed in disbelief as he approached Boyd with cautious steps. "Boyd," he called out, glancing around at the ranch's new dynamics. "What's this I hear about your miniature horse? They say he's causing quite a stir." Vernon crossed his arms and eyed Thunderstrike with skepticism. It was clear he had come to question Boyd's judgment rather than to celebrate any newfound wonder. Behind him stood 2 other men, one tall and lanky with calloused hands who looked like he'd spent years wrestling with cattle, and another stout fellow with a wide-brimmed hat that cast shadows over his eyes. Both men shared Vernon's incredulous expression. "Seems absurd to have that little creature running around when you've got real working horses," the stout man chimed in, shaking his head as if trying to dispel an unwelcome thought. "I mean no offense, Boyd, but you're losing your grip." Thunderstrike lifted his tiny head at the sound of their voices, ears perking up as though sensing the tension wafting through the air like an unwanted odor. Boyd held back a sigh, but felt anger bubbling beneath the surface. How could they not see what he saw? "That little creature has been nothing short of remarkable," Boyd replied firmly, while crossing to stand beside Thunderstrike's pen, protectively shielding him from their narrow-minded judgments. "You might want to rethink what you know about horses." "Oh, really?" Vernon scoffed lightly before chuckling derisively. "Tell me how a miniature horse helps manage cattle, or does anything useful for that matter." His words dripped with doubt like rain falling on parched earth, a bleak reminder of past failures. A flicker of frustration sparked within Boyd's chest as he gestured toward Dusty Rose standing gracefully by Thunderstrike's side, their unlikely friendship blossoming under even these harsh conditions. "He's not just here for decoration," Boyd said evenly, while keeping his tone measured yet assertive. "Thunderstrike communicates differently than full-sized horses. I've seen it firsthand." The lanky man took a step forward, then knelt down so that he could peer into Thunderstrike's eyes more closely, as if searching for some hidden flaw behind those soulful expressions filled with intelligence and spirit. But all they seemed capable of seeing were reservations cloaked in size. "Intelligence doesn't always translate into usefulness on a ranch," he muttered skeptically after taking measure of the miniature horse's calm demeanor. "Is that so?" With the sun climbing high in the Texas sky, casting its golden rays across the sprawling landscape, Thunderstrike stood at the edge of the pasture, his tiny frame silhouetted against the backdrop of Boyd's larger quarter horses. The miniature horse took a deep breath, filling his lungs with the warm scent of grass and earth as he readied himself for what was to come. Today marked the beginning of a new chapter in his life, a journey that would challenge him but also allow him to reveal the depths of his untapped potential. Boyd watched from a distance, leaning against the wooden fence that divided their pastures. His heart swelled with pride as he observed Thunderstrike taking tentative steps towards Dusty Rose, who stood patiently waiting by her paddock. The larger mare shifted slightly on her hooves, acknowledging her tiny companion's presence without intimidation. Their bond was growing stronger by the day, an unspoken connection rooted in mutual respect and understanding. "All right, little fella," Boyd called out gently as he approached them both, his weathered voice carrying an encouraging tone. "Let's see what you can do." He had gathered a few essential items: a lunge line coiled neatly over one arm and a set of colored cones lying flat on the grass nearby. Each item symbolized not just training but trust, the kind that he hoped would blossom between them through patience and consistency. As Boyd began laying out the cones in a colorful pattern across the grassy expanse, Thunderstrike watched with keen eyes. His ears perked up, revealing an unmistakable curiosity about what this new game might entail. The arrangement seemed simple enough. Various colors positioned strategically around their makeshift training ground. But it wasn't merely about navigating cones. It was about establishing communication through movement, learning how to express intentions even when words failed. "Dusty Rose," Boyd said softly while gesturing toward Thunderstrike's direction. "Give him some space." The mare took half a step back, sensing her rider's intent to encourage Thunderstrike without distraction. As if picking up on Dusty's withdrawal, Thunderstruck stepped forward confidently, the excitement bubbling within him like water reaching its boiling point. "Now let's start small," Boyd instructed warmly as he snapped one end of the lunge line onto Thunderstrike's halter. "Just follow my lead." With every gentle tug and guiding pull from Boyd's hand, holding firm yet loose at once, Thunderstrike responded instinctively, his gait transforming into something graceful yet determined. In those initial moments together, Boyd leading and Thunderstrike following, a rhythm began to emerge between them like music being composed note by note. Each time they circled back toward Dusty Rose or returned from weaving among vibrant cones dotted across lush, green fields under an azure sky painted with delicate clouds, it felt less like training and more like dancing. Good boy Thunderstrike's initial sessions of training had been promising, every moment spent together tightening the bond between him and Boyd. The little horse displayed an eagerness to learn, his expressive eyes sparkling with newfound purpose as he navigated through obstacles like a dancer gliding gracefully across a stage. Boyd watched proudly as Thunderstrike's movements mirrored his own, fluid and confident, reflecting their growing trust in one another. Yet, not everything unfolded smoothly beneath the vast Texas sky. One fateful afternoon, as they practiced in the main pasture, an unexpected disturbance shattered their tranquil routine. A sudden clap of thunder rolled ominously across the horizon, dark clouds swirling above them as if nature itself conspired against their efforts. Thunderstrike froze mid-step, his ears pricked forward and body tense with uncertainty. "Easy now," Boyd murmured softly, trying to reassure his diminutive partner while gently tugging on the lunge line. But just then, a flash of lightning illuminated the field and sent Dusty Rose bolting across the pasture with a wild neigh, startled by both noise and light. Thunderstrike jerked back instinctively at Dusty's chaotic movement. Terror flickered in his eyes like candlelight before being snuffed out. Boyd felt his heart pound against his chest as he tightened his grip on the lunge line, desperately trying to calm both horses amid the unfolding chaos. "Whoa there!" he called out to Dusty Rose while attempting to regain control over Thunderstrike, but it was too late. Panic had taken hold. "No! Thunder!" Boyd shouted instinctively after him. The miniature horse collided into the sturdy wooden fence with a thud that reverberated through Boyd's chest. His heart dropped at once into an icy abyss filled with dread. Boyd rushed forward just in time to see Thunderstrike stumble backward from impact before regaining some semblance of composure. "Let's take it easy," Boyd said cautiously, while assessing any potential injuries, the urgency clawing at him as he scanned for signs of distress on that fragile form, standing before him so small, yet so resilient all at once. But it wasn't just physical discomfort weighing down on Thunderstrike. Fear danced behind those intelligent eyes, extinguishing any spark of confidence he had previously shown during training sessions. It was devastating for Boyd to witness how quickly things could unravel, their joyful dance transformed into this frantic race away from danger, a stark reminder that progress could falter when least expected. As if reading Boyd's concern, Magnolia arrived shortly afterward, her presence providing some comfort amid turmoil and worry, filling her expression like clouds pregnant with rain, ready to unleash themselves upon parched ground below. What happened? Thunderstrike's breath came in quick bursts, the sounds of his panicked whinnies echoing through the pasture as he darted away from Boyd. The miniature horse's eyes were wide, filled with an urgency that sent a wave of alarm crashing over Boyd. He was not just a small creature, he was a delicate soul struggling against the weight of fear. "Whoa there, buddy!" Boyd called out, his heart racing as he instinctively reached out with one hand to calm him. But Thunderstrike was already caught up in a whirlwind of anxiety, weaving erratically between dusty rows and the fence line. Each frantic step seemed like an expression of confusion rather than disobedience, a desperate attempt to escape something unseen but very real to him. Magnolia drove up just then, her truck kicking up dust that danced in the air like tiny fairies. She jumped out swiftly and made her way over with purpose, her face etched with concern as she took in the scene before her. "What happened?" she asked urgently, glancing between Boyd and the tiny horse now pacing nervously near the paddock. He started panicking," Boyd replied hoarsely, his voice laced with frustration and helplessness. "I don't know what triggered it." "I think I do," Magnolia murmured thoughtfully as she stepped closer to Thunderstrike's pen. Her gaze softened when she noticed how he kept glancing toward them, his body taut yet trembling slightly under the strain of unarticulated fears. "Let me try," she offered gently, taking a few deliberate steps toward Thunderstrike while maintaining a calm demeanor that radiated reassurance. She extended her hands toward him slowly, palms open and inviting. "Hey there, little fella," she cooed softly. "It's okay." Boyd watched closely as Magnolia knelt down at eye level with Thunderstrike, who hesitated for just a heartbeat before taking a cautious step forward, his instinctive wariness battling against his desire for comfort. In this moment of vulnerability, it struck Boyd how profoundly interconnected they all were, human and horse alike, feeling emotions too deep for words amidst their shared turmoil. "Just breathe," Magnolia encouraged while maintaining steady eye contact, every soothing tone crafted like gentle brushstrokes, painting peace back into an agitated heart. The rhythm slowed gradually. Thunderstrike's wild movements softened into tentative nudges as he edged closer to Magnolia's outstretched hand, tension releasing ever so slightly from his frame, like air escaping an inflated balloon. "There we go," Boyd exclaimed softly as hope began to blossom within him once more, a fragile bloom emerging from beneath layers of worry and uncertainty. With each minute that passed, patience wrapped around them like a warm blanket, the kind only true understanding could weave together amid shared fears and moments lost, but found again, in trust rebuilt piece by piece, on soft hoofbeats across familiar ground. As Thunderstrike's agitated movements gradually began to settle, the air around Boyd was thick with a mix of relief and residual tension. He watched closely as the miniature horse cautiously leaned toward Magnolia's reassuring hand, each tentative step closer, bringing hope back into the fragile atmosphere. It was a small victory in what felt like an unending battle against the critics who had begun to question his decision to keep Thunderstrike. "Let's take it slow, just like we've practiced," Magnolia encouraged gently, her voice a calming balm in the chaos that often surrounded them. Boyd stood by, feeling both proud and helpless as he observed the bond forming anew between Thunderstrike and Magnolia. The little horse nudged closer, inching toward her outstretched fingers with an almost pleading look in his intelligent eyes. "Perfect, just perfect," Boyd murmured softly under his breath, while casting wary glances toward the edge of the pasture, where onlookers gathered once more. Critics from near and far determined to see for themselves if this so-called genius miniature horse was indeed worth all the hype surrounding him. Some were skeptical ranchers worried about livestock safety. Others were academics eager to dissect every action through their analytical lens. Their presence weighed heavily upon him, a mix of curiosity and skepticism that felt intrusive as they peered through fences and binoculars. The last thing he wanted was for Thunderstrike to be treated as nothing more than a spectacle or potential commodity rather than a living creature deserving compassion. Yet here they were, ready to judge without grasping the true essence of what had been blossoming on Broken Horn Cattle Ranch since Thunderstrike arrived. Just then, a brash voice broke through Boyd's thoughts. It belonged to Vernon Ashcraft-Oft, one of his neighboring ranchers known for his blunt opinions. "What are you doing wasting time with that little guy?" he hollered dismissively from behind the fence line, where several others stood watching. "You think he can do anything real? That horse is nothing but trouble." Boyd clenched his jaw at Vernon's derisive tone, but chose silence instead of confrontation. It seemed futile when faced with such narrow-mindedness. He turned back toward Thunderstrike just in time to witness another small miracle. Magnolia knelt down carefully and gestured for Thunderstrike's attention with calm authority. She beckoned him forward again slowly. This time, there was less hesitation on his part, a quiet trust beginning to bridge gaps built from fear. Vernon continued speaking loudly enough for everyone within earshot to hear him clearly. "I heard he tried kicking one of your bulls not long ago. What do you want, a show pony or an actual working horse?" Boyd took a deep breath as indignation surged within him, but instead of lashing out verbally at Vernon's cruelty, he focused on maintaining eye contact with Thunderstrike, as if reaffirming their connection amidst external disapproval. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across Broken Horn Cattle Ranch as Boyd stood by the fence, his heart racing. Thunderstrike grazed quietly beside him, unaware of the storm brewing just beyond their tranquil pasture. Vernon Ashcraft's taunting words echoed in Boyd's ears, igniting a fierce determination within him. "Do you want a show pony or an actual working horse?" Vernon's voice carried like a cannon shot through the air, drawing attention from those nearby. The rancher's scorn stirred something primal in Boyd, but he resisted the urge to lash out. Instead, he focused on Thunderstrike and what they had built together in such a short time. Boyd took a deep breath, grounding himself against the weight of Vernon's derision. "You know what? That little horse is worth more than any of your bulls," he said, slowly but firmly, clenching his fists at his sides to quell his rising anger. Magnolia watched with concern etched on her face as she gently approached Thunderstrike once more. She knelt down close to the ground and extended her hand toward him, a subtle yet powerful invitation that spoke volumes about patience and understanding. The miniature horse hesitated for a brief moment before inching closer. His small frame quivered slightly, as if grappling with doubt. "Easy now," Magnolia coaxed softly, her voice soothing like honey on a warm day. "I won't hurt you." With tentative nudges, Thunderstrike began to close the distance further between them, a small step forward punctuated by uncertainty but amplified by hope simmering beneath his cautious demeanor. Each movement released tension from his body like steam escaping from an overfilled kettle. It was as if trust was slowly being stitched back together, thread by delicate thread. "Well, would you look at that?" Boyd exclaimed quietly, feeling warmth spread through him while watching this unfolding miracle before his eyes. It felt monumental, the rebirth of faith after years spent feeling lost since Elena's passing, and it brought tears threatening to spill over with joy. A faint wind rustled through tall grasses that framed their makeshift arena. Nature bore witness to this transformative moment, the kind only true understanding could weave amid shadows cast from doubt and fear, faded away under layers of rediscovered connection. But just then, Vernon blurted out again, dismissively, loud enough for everyone gathered around to hear. "How can you expect anything real from that little creature? He looks like a dog trying to play cowboy." Boyd turned sharply towards Vernon, muscles taut with indignation. But instead of hurling insults or challenging him head-on, he refocused on Thunderstrike standing bravely near Magnolia, who continued coaxing him forward, a symbol of courage entwined with vulnerability, ready to be tested at last. The air was thick with tension as Boyd stood firmly, his heart racing while he felt the heat of Vernon's disdainful glare. The whispering grasses danced gently in the breeze around them, almost as if nature itself were trying to ease the mounting pressure. Thunderstrike remained at Boyd's side, his small frame emanating a quiet confidence that belied his size. Each breath felt charged with unspoken words, and as Magnolia knelt nearby, she extended her hand towards the miniature horse with steady calmness. "Come on, Thunder," she coaxed softly, her voice a soothing balm against the harsh judgments surrounding them. All that mattered was this connection they were forging together. Boyd's gaze never wavered from Thunderstrike. It was vital for him to maintain that bond amidst external chaos. He could see the flicker of uncertainty in Thunderstrike's dark eyes as he hesitated before moving forward toward Magnolia's outstretched hand. Just then, Vernon's voice sliced through the air again like a jagged knife. "You really think that little creature can do anything worth your time?" "Looks like a dog pretending to be a cowboy." Laughter erupted among Vernon's companions, a cruel sound echoing across Broken Horn Cattle Ranch. Boyd clenched his fists at his sides, but remained silent. Anger swirled within him like a storm waiting to break free. Instead of launching into an argument with Vernon about respect or understanding, something he knew would only deepen the divide, he focused on Thunderstrike. The miniature horse looked back at Boyd as if seeking reassurance. This connection they shared anchored Boyd amidst rising doubts. "Stay brave," Boyd whispered under his breath, channeling every ounce of encouragement he could muster into those simple words. Magnolia continued to kneel before Thunderstrike, patient and unwavering in her determination to prove what this remarkable horse could achieve, despite any narrow-minded opinions thrown at him. Slowly but surely, Thunderstrike took cautious steps forward until he was close enough for Magnolia to offer him gentle strokes along his neck. "See, you're doing great," she murmured warmly. As if sensing the shift in atmosphere brought about by Magnolia's kindness and empathy, Thunderstrike leaned into her touch. The once timid gestures transformed into confident nudges against her hand, signs of trust beginning to bloom amid skepticism. Vernon scoffed louder now, crossing his arms defiantly over his chest. "What are you hoping for? A miracle?" "He'll never be more than just a freak show." His laughter echoed again, but was met with an unexpected silence from those gathered around them, all eyes transfixed on this small creature who dared to challenge their expectations. With renewed determination igniting within her spirit, Magnolia rose steadily and turned toward Vernon with conviction etched onto her face. "You don't know what you're talking about." Her tone was firm yet composed. The sun was dipping low on the horizon, casting a warm golden glow over Broken Horn Cattle Ranch, wrapping everything in a gentle embrace. Boyd stood at the center of an impromptu gathering, his heart pounding with anticipation as he felt the weight of those expectant eyes upon him. The air buzzed with excitement and skepticism alike. Thunderstrike had become more than just a miniature horse. He was now a beacon of hope in their small community. Vernon's laughter echoed harshly against the backdrop of camaraderie forming among Boyd's neighbors and friends who had come to witness this momentous event. "You think that little creature can actually do something worth seeing? He looks more like a pet than a ranch hand." His dismissive tone grated against Boyd's nerves, but instead of retaliating with anger, he grounded himself in determination. Magnolia stepped forward, her voice steady and unwavering. "What you don't understand is that true strength comes in many forms," she declared, her gaze sharp as she locked eyes with Vernon. "Thunderstrike may be small, but he's brimming with potential." Boyd watched as Thunderstrike stood proudly beside Magnolia, his tiny frame radiating courage despite the criticism flying around him. It was no longer just about proving Vernon wrong. It was about showing everyone, and themselves, the depth of their bond and what they could accomplish together. "Let's see if your freak show can perform," Vernon sneered again, arms crossed defiantly over his chest, while the crowd murmured softly amongst themselves. With resolute grace, Magnolia moved closer to Thunderstrike, kneeling down to meet him at eye level. "Come on now, buddy," she whispered encouragingly as she held out her hand toward him. Thunderstrike responded instantly to her warmth and gentle coaxing. He took an eager step forward and nuzzled into her palm, a gesture that spoke volumes about their growing trust. The spectators leaned in closer as they witnessed this intimate connection blossom before them. A ripple of disbelief swept through some faces, while others began to nod appreciatively at the unfolding scene. Sensing their curiosity shift towards admiration rather than ridicule brought renewed energy pulsing through Boyd's veins. "Now watch closely," Magnolia instructed confidently as she backed away from Thunderstrike and raised her arms slightly to signal what came next. A series of cues designed for performance training. She clicked her tongue gently, a cue familiar yet foreign enough for some onlookers who had come expecting nothing significant. In response to her commands, Thunderstrike began moving fluidly across the makeshift arena made from worn earth beneath him, each step showcasing not only agility but also intelligence that defied his size. His mane floated like silk behind him while he pivoted gracefully between colored cones scattered strategically throughout the area. Gasps rose from within the crowd, a shift in perception sparked by witnessing firsthand what they thought impossible materialize right before them. With a soft click of her tongue, Magnolia ignited a spark in the air that crackled with anticipation. The crowd, once skeptical, now leaned forward as Thunderstrike began to respond to her gentle commands. Each movement he made exuded grace and purpose, proving that this little horse was far more than anyone had ever given him credit for. His flowing mane caught the light as he turned, his tiny hooves deftly navigating around the colored cones like a dancer gliding across a stage. Vernon's derisive laughter faltered as gasps erupted from those watching, eyes widening with disbelief at the transformation unfolding before them. Thunderstrike's confidence grew with each successful maneuver. He twirled and pivoted, embodying agility and intelligence that challenged the limitations others had imposed on him. With every careful step, he communicated an innate understanding of what Magnolia asked of him, a silent partnership forming between horse and handler that felt almost palpable. "Look at him go," someone murmured in awe, while another voice chimed in. "I never thought I'd see a miniature horse do something like that." The atmosphere shifted dramatically. Excitement rippled through the onlookers like waves crashing against shore. Magnolia remained calm amid their astonishment, her hands guiding him with practiced ease. "Good boy," she encouraged softly, her voice carrying warmth only meant for Thunderstrike. He flicked his ears toward her words, responding not just to her tone, but to the bond they were forging right there in front of everyone gathered, a connection blossoming amidst prior doubts and judgments. "This isn't some freak show," Magnolia declared firmly to Vernon, who stood crossing his arms again, but this time visibly shaken by the scene playing out before him. "What you're witnessing is trust being built one step at a time." Her gaze locked onto Vernon's stubborn expression, challenging him to reconsider everything he thought about Thunderstrike. As if sensing Magnolia's determination radiating into the crowd around them, Thunderstrike executed another flawless turn, followed by a small leap that sent delighted murmurs rippling through the spectators. Each leap echoed not just physical prowess, but emotional resilience. The brave heart of an animal once cast aside finding its place among those willing to see past size and circumstance. Magnolia could feel the energy shifting. It was no longer just about impressing them or proving naysayers wrong. It had become something deeper. A chance to show everyone how love could mend what others deemed broken. Each moment captured onlookers' hearts while simultaneously stitching up wounds left by skepticism. With renewed enthusiasm coursing through her veins like wildfire fueling flames of hope inside each observer's chest, she continued their session under warm Texas sunlight filtering down over them from above, an embrace alive with promise. "Thunderstrike," Magnolia called out joyfully after positioning several colorful cones further away from them both. Show them how smart you really are. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a warm golden glow over Broken Horn Cattle Ranch. Boyd Cartwright stood at the edge of the pasture, watching Thunderstrike as he nuzzled against Dusty Rose, their bond evident in each gentle gesture. The past several months had seen remarkable transformations, both in Thunderstrike and within Boyd himself, and this moment felt like a culmination of it all. Magnolia Birch approached him quietly, her boots crunching softly on the dry earth. "He's thriving, isn't he?" she asked, her voice filled with warmth and admiration. Boyd nodded, his gaze fixed on the miniature horse weaving effortlessly between his larger companions. The tiny pinto seemed to embody pure joy as he playfully kicked up dust while darting around. "Never would have thought I'd see a day where that little guy was king of the pasture," Boyd chuckled softly, crossing his arms over his chest. A sense of peace enveloped him. Something he hadn't felt since Elena's passing began to settle in. A comfort that came from knowing they both belonged here, together. Magnolia smiled knowingly. "You gave him a home when everyone else turned away." There was pride in her tone that resonated with Boyd deeply. He remembered how lost he'd felt after losing Elena, struggling to find meaning in every day that followed. Thunderstrike had brought back laughter and purpose to his life, a bright spark illuminating dark corners. A faint whinny interrupted their conversation as Thunderstrike trotted over towards them, his small frame exuding confidence and ease. He nudged Boyd's hand affectionately before gazing up at him with those intelligent eyes full of trust and companionship. It was remarkable how much had changed. What once seemed like an inconvenience had blossomed into an extraordinary partnership, a union forged through understanding rather than mere obligation. "You know," Magnolia continued thoughtfully, "this is just the beginning for both of you." She gestured toward the horizon where vibrant hues mingled above them like strokes on a canvas painted by nature itself. "With all you've learned together about trust and intelligence, there's so much potential ahead." As if sensing their discussion about future possibilities, Thunderstrike danced lightly around them with playful energy. His spirit contagious enough to pull smiles from even the most skeptical observers who'd once doubted his abilities. "I didn't realize until now how important it is for us both," Boyd reflected aloud, running a weathered hand along Thunderstrike's sleek mane as sunlight glinted off its glossy coat. "It's not just about giving him a place to call home, it's also about finding my own way back." With each day spent together, they had grown into something stronger than mere rancher and horse. They were allies navigating life's unpredictable currents side by side. "Let me show you something," Magnolia said suddenly, before leading them toward an open area behind the barn, where she had set up colorful cones for training sessions earlier that week.